Hello and welcome to Normal Islands Live. I'm Curtis Daly and it's Friday, which means the weekend is coming up. And I'm delighted. I mean, half you know who it's going to be, but I'm delighted to once again be joined by Kevin Logan. How are you, Kevin Logan, my best friend? You okay?
Hello, my best friendy Wendy Wind. Hello.
Just by doing that, you are no longer my best friend. We're just acquaintances.
I
No,
don't even
seriously.
know. I've never even heard of you. I don't know who you're talking about. I've never met Curtis. Curtis who?
Yeah,
What?
some tosser. But how are you though?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's more Labour discourse.
Yes.
Nothing. I mean, we say there's nothing new that's happened. We're going to go through it anyway, but I think people want to hear what we've got to say. There's no
Well, it's not.
breaking news.
Well, exactly. It's an odd combination of technically nothing actually has happened, but there's plenty going on behind the scenes that I think is worth analysing.
Oh, of course. Otherwise, there'd be no show, and that'll be a bit, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm just going to take tonight off.
Yeah. Imagine if the news came on one night. Nothing has happened. Good night.
That would be quite refreshing and cathartic.
Yeah, that would
Just,
be
just the
nice.
once though.
Yeah.
But no, we are here. We are going to be going through the stories. And at the end, of course, we're going to get to your comments. But please remember to like the stream. Make sure you are subscribed and hit the notification bell. And if you support our work, then you can go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support to help fund our work. Now, coming up tonight, we'll be discussing Nigel Farage changing his reasons as to why he received a £5 million gift. JP Morgan threatening to pull investment if Labour moves left. And of course, our main story, the potential return of Andy Burnham to Parliament. Let's go to our first story. So Nigel Farage has changed his reason for the £5 million gift he received in an interview with The Sun's Harry Cole. Now, this was the initial reason Farage gave to the BBC.
I've been the most attacked physically politician of modern times, and yet despite repeated requests to the Home Office, the police, for protection and help, I've been denied at every twist and turn. This money is the only way I can look after myself and protect myself for the rest of my life.
Oh, I mean, despite the fact that two MPs were murdered, Joe Cox and David Amess, Farage claims he's the most attacked politician and needed £5 million for security. Well, now he's changed his tune.
This was given to me as on an unconditional basis, completely unconditional basis, but frankly, it was given as a reward for campaigning for Brexit for 26 years.
And it had no impact on your decision to come back into public life?
No.
But he who pays the piper picks the tune.
Hang on a second. I can't be bought by anybody.
Yeah? Look down that camera and say, I cannot
I can't
be bought by
anybody.
anyone.
No, not anyone. Not even Elon Musk.
Hey, you pays the piper picks the tune. What a pathetic interview, by the way. I'll go talk about Farage in a second, but that's Harry Cole from The Sun, of course. Right-wing rag. They're not going to really hold Farage to account. I mean, his line of questioning was, look down that camera and say what you're going to say. Yeah, I can't be bought. No pushback there whatsoever. It's crazy for Farage to say that he can't be bought. He's literally the most bought man, the most bought politician. People don't give you 5 million quid and more. People don't give you nearly 20 million pounds to your political party if you can't be bought. Now, of course, he's switched his reasons. He said, it's for security. And now he's saying it's for Brexit, a reward for Brexit. I mean, this is absolutely insane. Obviously, people didn't buy the initial excuse that it was for security because they're bullshit. But of course, again, like Harry Cole giving no pushback. So basically, he's admitting this is a political donation. Of course, all donations are political. But the fact that he's openly saying that's the case, maybe, just maybe, could be due to the incoming investigation he's facing. Earlier this week, it was announced that Nigel will be facing an inquiry into his £5 million gift from Thai-based resident Christopher Harburn before the 2024 general election. Farage didn't declare the crypto donation when he should have done. Daniel Greenberg, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, is understood to have begun an investigation under Rule 5 of the Code of Conduct, obliging MPs to fulfil conscientiously requirements relating to their registration of interests. It states that the new MPs must register all their current financial interests and any registrable benefits other than earnings received in the last 12 months before their election. This must be done with 1 month of the election. They must register any change in those registrable interests within 28 days. Now, this investigation could potentially see Nigel Farage kicked out of Parliament. If the investigation finds Farage committed a particularly serious breach of parliamentary declaration rules, he could be suspended from the Commons. A suspension of 10 days or more could trigger a recall petition, potentially forcing him to fight again for his Clacton seat. Now, if this was to actually happen, that would blow up politics. Will it though? Kevin, why do you think Farage openly changed his reason? Was it just, careless and he ran his mouth? Or has he realised that the Parliamentary Commissioner standards might not buy his security fears?
Possibly a little bit of both, actually. I think he understands that in order to sell an argument to the press and the country is one thing. To go before a commission of Parliament and do so is a rather different thing, because he would presumably have to show how much money he spent on security in order to see that anything matches up whatsoever. So presumably he knows he would be caught out on that. But also he realises that he was speaking in front of a friendly crowd, as you pointed out. He's in front of a hack. He's in front of a client journalist. And so he can just boast about Brexit in a way that he can't in normal society. And so I think he was doing a little bit of that as well. It's a little bit bravado. But there's so much whinging to Nigel Farage. It's embarrassing to see him say that he's the most attacked politician of modern times, which, as you pointed out, there have been 2 members of Parliament murdered in recent times. But even if he doesn't care about those people, because clearly he doesn't care about Britain, the man whose balls are permanently in residence in Nigel Farage's mouth, that being the current President of the United States, Donald Trump, has been shot at 3 times. One might say, fortunately or unfortunately, he has been missed on all of those occasions, but those have been assassination attempts on his life, which, as far as we're aware, those milkshakings that Nigel Farage suffered a few years ago I don't think that amounts to an assassination attempt. Even if he were lactose intolerant, it would be at worst problematic and not actually count as attempted murder. But there we go. Let's just call this what it is. Naked corruption. In Britain, and actually in the West more generally, we have a really annoying habit of talking down to the rest of the world about corruption. So you see these corruption league tables where it's like Afghanistan is number 1, and then, I don't know, Iran or North Korea or whoever in sort of top 10. And the Western countries get put down the list all the way down to like number 100 because they're the least corrupt. But the problem is we've just formalised our corruption. That's all we've done. It's no less corrupt than any other country. It's just we call it lobbying, or we call it political donations. That's the only difference. What this is an investment from a Thai-based billionaire. And I say investment because he expects a return on that investment. He has given £5 million to Nigel Farage personally, and as you pointed out, nearly 20 million to both Farage and the Reform Party together. And he expects to earn a great deal more from that by the fact that they have changed their policy in regard to cryptocurrency. So if they came into power, or he came into office and implemented those policies, he would make that money back many times over. That's the naked corruption of all of this. And it's really obvious, and he's just playing the game. And the members, just a kind of ancillary point, the members' registry of interest in Parliament is such an absurd thing, which sort of plays into the point I was making about the formalisation of corruption. Just announcing that you have a conflict of interest doesn't get rid of the conflict of interest. If you say, I am bought and paid for by this company, doesn't change the fact that you are then voting on laws which benefit that company. It's like we've just formalised the corruption. It's just accepted as a part of the process. It's the corruption and spoil and grift at the heart of Westminster.
Interesting you note about let's say global South countries, South America, it's like, oh, these are really, really corrupt countries. But the definition of corruption is when something goes wrong. Obviously, in our country, like as you said, we legalize bribery. Technically, we're not corrupt because they're playing by the rules, but the rules are rigged. In fact, you could even say that other countries have better rules because they are technically corrupt. Therefore, the rules were better, and they've just broken those rules. Whereas here, it's like they're really, really corrupt, but it's legal. I mean, it's kind of like saying, well, we'll look at lots of state corruption, but they don't say anything about oligarchs and the private side of it and the private interests and
Well, exactly. Yeah,
etc.
we're the best at not doing corruption based upon the definitions of corruption that we have written.
Yes. And also, your point about Nigel Farage, this is the thing that he does sometimes that Donald Trump does, which is like, if I admit something really, really bad, sometimes I can get a pass. I think it's like Boris Johnson is like the honest liar. Keir Starmer is the liar's liar. This is not my line, by the way. Keir Starmer is so bad at lying, everyone knows he's a liar. Boris Johnson's charismatic in his lies. And people say, do you know what? Like him or not, he's telling the truth. And that's what Farage does, right? And people said that about Trump. They're not any different in their lies, but they carry it with a level of confidence. And sometimes you say the quiet part out loud, but in a way, when a politician is so open and brazen about it, I feel like it almost tricks some people. They go, well, maybe it's all right then if they can just openly say it.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the two main advantages that young kids who go to private school get. Firstly, it's the connections. Obviously, you all know each other and you're all part of the same clique. But secondly, it instills you with a confidence in yourself, not necessarily as a person, but as being gifted with a divine
You're always
right.
going to be okay.
And so you're just able to do whatever, and you can brazen it out in the same way that Trump does, in the same way that Boris Johnson does, in the same way that Farage does. That's the kind of confidence it gives you. But like, as to Farage's point about not being able to be bought, like, motherfucker, I can buy you for £100 on Cameo to endorse known prescribed terrorist organisations, mate.
The IRA for 85 quid.
Yeah, like, come on, mate. Like, I'm not a billionaire and I can get you to do illegal things, you prick. Like, shut up.
Now, look, if Nigel Farage faces a recall, to be honest, would this even matter? Because
no, he'd win
if he's
again.
able to stand again, he'd win, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and he would be able to stand. They don't have the power to deny him that. They just a recall would happen, and another election would happen. He'd stand, and the Reform Party are more popular now. And of course, it would play into his narrative about the Westminster deep state being against him and all of that. It would absolutely be. He'd be fine. He'd win with an increased majority.
Well,
It'd be embarrassing for the establishment.
I don't think Reform are more. I think Reform are less popular. Like, if we were to compare the local elections, right, they lost support. They had 30% and they had 26% this time. So I think they are losing support, to be honest.
Okay, they're losing support from where they were, say, 5 months ago. But we're talking at the 2024 election when they got what, 5.
Fair enough. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think they're certainly polling higher than they were then. And like I say,
you think he could probably win more votes a second time around?
I wouldn't be surprised, especially given that the other main parties have continued to collapse since then. Because the Labour Party were not popular, but were reasonably popular enough to win a majority, and that they would get no votes in Clacton. The Green Party don't have a particular base there, so they couldn't really challenge. The Tory Party have disintegrated. So who stands in his way? What party would beat him? I don't see one.
None. Yeah. But you're right. He would do the victim blaming, or
of course he would.
The establishment's against me. He's doing it now, actually, with a £5 million donation. Oh, the establishment's coming after me because a Thai-based, extremely rich man, billionaire, is giving me money, and I'm being held to account.
He did it when Coots Bank denied him a super duper mega account. Because I'm rich enough and powerful enough, I should just be given these things. Again, that's the confidence that private education buys for a child.
It does.
It's grotesque. Yeah,
it does indeed. Abolish private schools, I say. State-funded education for all.
Yes, I would have Eton and all of those places ground down and turned into kitty.
I'd have Eton prescribed if I was Prime Minister.
Or
prescribe their asses.
Or you know what? Turn it into the biggest spoons in the world.
I'd turn it into council houses and then maybe a spoons next to it. But that's not even social utopia, by the way. A Blairite policy is to get rid of private schools. But well, it's a Blairite policy, but like, you know, they wouldn't do anything about it now because they moved over some window. But traditionally, the Blairites supported it. But I digress. We're not here to gas up Blairites, are we? Let's move on to our second story. Now, do the bond markets have complete control over our government? Are we facing a democratic deficit if there are certain economic policies that are not seen as permissible for some investors? Got graphic 4? I think our producers froze. Okay, I'm going to read out graphic 4. We'll do that in post. So there's the claim from JP Morgan boss, or a claim from JP Morgan boss, Jamie Dimon. He has threatened to pull £3 billion worth of investment if the Labour Party move left. Jamie Dimon said the company would review existing plans to build a new skyscraper headquarters in London's Canary Wharf. The warning comes amid mounting pressure on Sir Keir to walk away from Downing Street, with more than 80 MPs having called on him to step down. Andy Burnham and Angela Rayner have been touted as possible names to replace Starmer, both of whom have previously called for more tax and spending. Asked whether he would review the plans for the new London office in light of the turmoil, Mr. Dimon told Bloomberg TV, not political instability, but if they become hostile to the banks, again, then yes. Oh, just think about the bankers. Hostile to the banks. That's really interesting because I think that Dimon's out of step with a lot of other investors, because a lot of investors care about stability. That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, you want to make sure you do have a return on your investment. If you're lending money to governments, you need to know they've got a long-term plan to pay you back. And for Dimon to say it's not stability, it's being harsh to banks, that to me says I don't care about the stability of the country, or even in the selfish way, the stability of my return on investment. I just want to have favorable policies to me. And I generally think that's out of step with a lot of investors. Because the thing is, though, the media would tell you that bond markets have to be adhered to by all governments. And typically, left-wing policies are against bond markets, and right-wing policies or economic policies are in favour of bond markets. A load of rubbish, by the way. I always say the point, but it's so important. Jeremy Corbyn, or John McDonnell rather, in their 2017 manifesto, had lots of tax and spend policies. They were going to spend a lot of money. They were going to raise taxes on the rich. They were going to bring in quantitative easing. And they went to the financial sector, the City of London, and they said, we are going to tax the rich more. We are going to spend a lot more money, but don't worry about your investments. We will pay you back because we have a long-term strategy. Now, contrast that with Liz Truss. Liz Truss, her budget, her policies, it wasn't the policies necessarily that spooked the bond markets. It was the fact that she announced tax cuts for her mates with no even plan to say this is how we're going to fund it. And by the way, before people come at me, yes, I do support MMT, but you can still have unfunded tax cuts under MMT. Maybe I'll explain in a second. But it was the way it was communicated, the bond markets freaked out. Now, if Liz Truss went to the bond markets and said, this is my long-term strategy, I'm going to cut taxes for the rich, but we're going to have growth, and that growth is going to do this, do that, create jobs, whatever. We are going to give your money back. Don't worry. The bond markets wouldn't have been spooked. In fact, when Rachel Reeves cried in Parliament, the bond markets got spooked, and Keir Starmer said, oh, well, do you know what? That shows that Rachel Reeves is a really valuable asset because investors were scared she might go. They weren't scared that she was going to go. They were scared that if she did go, they didn't know who was going to replace her. It was the instability. It's not necessarily the policies. So I find it strange that Dimon is saying, actually, it's nothing to do with stability. It's the policies, which I personally think he's chatting bollocks. But even if he does pull investment, hey, look, we have a very powerful state. There is something called state-led investment and state-led growth. Who'd have thought it? I mean, there was a guy called, I don't know, Clement Attlee, who brought about probably the biggest state-led growth we've ever seen. After World War II, when we were in big debts, we built the NHS, we built the welfare state, we built council houses, and the NHS still, on its knees, exists today. Kevin, yes, most mainstream talking heads will say, you know, there's nothing we can do. The markets are final. Do you buy that?
Well, if we live in a democracy, I'm not entirely sure how one goes about removing the bond market because I didn't elect it in the first place. This is again another example, as the previous story elucidated, of the corruption at the heart of the system that's just formalised. This is just allowed. Business leaders are just allowed to threaten governments because they might do things that they don't like. Um, to which I say, JP Morgan, fucking do one. Seriously. Like, I'm sick of this. I'm in no way one of the plastic patriots of the Nigel Farages of this world. But what I won't put up with is these extraterritorial, money grabbing, capital fucks trying to dictate to the people of Britain what they can and can't do. If the people of Britain vote to go a certain way, that is the way that must be gone. It was the same with Brexit, a thing that I opposed, but the people voted for. And I don't care that the bond markets didn't like it. That's the way that it had to go. Democracy and self-determination are the key fundamental principles of any civilized democratic state. And this kind of thing completely undermines that, along with the fact that we have, unelected upper chamber, unelected head of state, unelected executive, etc., etc. But the point is, these moneyed interests being able to dictate to the government as the representative of the people what they can and can't do is pretty fucking undemocratic and essentially a kind of a return of the rule of kings, unelected, unremovable, unaccountable, moneyed interests dictating what the people do or don't want. But I think you make a very interesting point and a very good point about the fact that I think he is out of line with most investors who do want stability, especially after the period of instability we've had with 6 prime ministers in the last 8 years or whatever it is. And we look like we're probably going to get onto a 7th now as well. I think they want a period of stability, regardless almost of whether they have slightly more left-wing or right-wing economic policies. Because let's be honest, Andy Burnham, and we'll get onto this I'm sure in the next story, but Andy Burnham probably isn't going to be like Karl Marx or something. He's going to institute some basic social democratic reform. And the thing is, that means investment in the economy, which means economic growth. Capital can do perfectly well under a democratic socialist or a social democratic system. You can make money from the fact that things are being built. It's pretty basic, Keynesian economics. It's fine. And I think this is just an absolutely unwarranted and undemocratic attempt to bully the British government into behaving the way they want. And that makes them, as far as I'm concerned, enemies of the people.
I'm going to be Laura Koonsberg for a second.
Please do.
The Conservatives. I'm not going to do the Scottish accent. So I'm Laura Koonsberg. I'm a legacy journalist, and I'm going to say to you, okay, people absolutely understand that it's maybe a democratic deficit or it's not fair. That's a moral argument, but the reality is we need investment from capital, usually external from our borders, global capital. And yes, we would very much like it if we could bring in policies which the people vote for. But if it's not economically salient or correct, or if the bond markets don't like it, then that's the reality we live in. How do you respond to that?
Well, like I say, Andy Burnham is not going to be introducing nationalisation of everything. He's not going to be instituting collective farms and fucking gulags or whatever. Like, what do they think he's going to do? He's going to do some basic nationalisation, which again, people forget because the neoliberal orthodoxy has set in so rancidly over the last 40 years that for the vast majority of the 20th century, Britain had nationalised industries. And we were fine. In fact, the period of time during which we had the most nationalised industries was the biggest period of economic growth in that century, during the 60s, 50s and 60s. Britain was booming. So the idea that we can't have a growing and vibrant economy and social democratic policy is ludicrous. This is just another example of the blob protecting itself, of the moneyed interest doing the thing that they think is in their interest, but of course managed decline in the long term is not in their interest. but they don't care about the long term because they're only interested in making sure that they get their bonuses, and to do that, they need to make sure shareholder return is as good as it is right now, regardless of the damage it does in the long term. And that kind of short term thinking is exactly what led us to this situation in the first place.
Absolutely. It's the short-term thinking, the lack of long-term thinking, is we can't have strategies. Look, for viewers who don't know, I generally support modern monetary theory. But I also understand that just because essentially of MMT basically says you don't need to rely on global capital. Like governments can literally print money, or rather electronically print money. They can literally add a zero to the spreadsheet and you just spend that money. Of course, there are restrictions before anyone kicks off at me. Yes, inflation is an issue. You don't just endlessly spend money because it's inflationary. But the real constraint of an economy isn't the amount of money you have in your bank account, because again, we have a sovereign currency. We can literally create our own money. But it's if we put too much money in places where it doesn't need money, again, that's inflationary. I don't even think you need an MMT argument to push back on the bond markets, because you can do what I think Mariana Mazzucato was absolutely fantastic, the entrepreneurial state, which basically says, and it's the very basic Keynesian economics, which is we can still borrow to invest, and yes, we still will be reliant on global capital. But again, when you borrow to invest in the long term, that's very, very good. So if we were to borrow money and instead of outsourcing everything through the private sphere, if we want to build something, rather than privatizing that, we can get the state to literally invest and build schools, hospitals, infrastructure by borrowing money. Sure, we're going to be more in debt. Again, like, if you're an MMTer like me, debt doesn't actually matter, but that's maybe another show. You can use the state to build this stuff, but then you tax it back through jobs, for example. The infrastructure creates jobs, more tax receipts, etc., more economic activity. It is a long-term thing, and you can still turn around to global capitalists and say, you are going to get your money back, don't worry, but are you going to want to invest in a country which can barely take care of its people, and people are tired, they're sick, they can't work?
Yeah.
Or are you going to want to invest in a healthy population? Because at the end of the day, the right-wingers always say, well, Britain is not a safe home for investors. It bloody is. We are a market of, let's say, 30 million people who are working. Whilst I think this country is definitely sliding, it's still a liberal democracy that is very, very wealthy for investors. I mean, let's say a very, very poor nation has lower taxes, but, 100% of nothing is nothing, or 0% of something is nothing. Like, if we were to tax you more, you're still going to get money back for your investment. I've never believed when people say, oh, if Britain taxes us more, we're gonna leave, we're gonna have capital flight, because at the end of the day, even though you're taxed more, you're still making profits. And the UK is a very profitable place for billionaires, despite high taxes.
Yeah, look, if Britain's such a bad place to invest, how come the only thing that's been growing in Britain is the number of billionaires? Massively increased in the last decade. That we are a perfectly reasonable place to invest, and just taking a tiny fraction of that wealth in taxation would revolutionise the public finances.
And also about Andy Burnham, like, he's not a radical leftist. It's hard to pinpoint what it is. Maybe we'll talk about it in a second. It's hard to pinpoint what he is, but I think he's probably like on the soft left. He will probably nationalise some utilities, maybe. But the idea that what the right wingers like say, oh, he's a bloody communist, it's just utter
no rubbish.
Okay, let's move on. Before we go into our final story, though, it's 2026, and of course we want this year to be massive for Turn Left. We want to be far more ambitious than last year and really put us on the map. We are leveling up with having part-time studio, with guests in person. We've had that. Hopefully we're going to have another guest in the studio soon. But we want to officially have our own full-time space, and for our contributors to be paid for the work we do. Your support over the years has been incredible, and we are ready to take this to the next level. We rely on small donations, so if you want to be part of a media organisation that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. Let's go on to our main story. Is Andy Burnham returning to Parliament? That could well be the case, as Labour MP Josh Simons has announced he will be standing down as the Makerfield MP, which will trigger a by-election. Burnham has requested to be on the shortlist of candidates to the NEC. As we know, the last by-election in Gorton and Denton, Burnham was blocked. However, this time it seems Keir Starmer will not stand in the way. A Starmer ally said Keir is focused on bringing the party together so it can tackle the issues facing working families. And according to the NEC, Burnham will be allowed to run. Labour's ruling body, the National Executive Committee, has just given permission for Andy Burnham to stand in the candidate selection process for the Makerfield by-election. It was a majority decision, and applications to be Labour's candidate have opened today. Pretty strange, though, because I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, they've allowed him to run this time, but why didn't they allow him to run in Gorton and Denton? Of course, we all know why, because Starmer was scared of him, right? But I think to your average voter who probably doesn't consume politics like we do, they're going to think, doesn't make any sense. Now, Makerfield poses a big challenge for Labour. Reform had a strong showing in the local elections. So this poll, this poll shows that in the local elections, Reform got 46.7%, the Labour Party got 24.9%, and the Greens got 11.2%. They're really not in the race. Although, according to Britain Predicts, the Burnham effect could carry Labour to victory. So the battle for Makerfield that Britain Predicts basically says that if Andy Burnham is the candidate, they are forecast to get 39%, to Reform getting 36%. Now, the May local election results, 23% here. Basically, without Burnham, they got no shot. With Burnham, to be honest, it's a toss-up. I think that's probably almost within the margin of error, but it's a true shot for Andy Burnham, but it's not a foregone conclusion. Now, in a strange turn of events, Wes Streeting, who resigned from government and was expected to announce his plan to run for leader, obviously that didn't happen, but instead he publicly backed Burnham for Makerfield. We need our best players on the pitch. There is no doubt that Andy Burnham is one of them. The Makerfield by-election will be tough. Votes will need to be earned. Andy is the best chance of winning that, Andy is the best chance of winning, and that should override factional advantage or propping up one person. That makes no sense to me, right? I mean, 1 minute he's resigning from government because he wants to launch a leadership bid, right? And now he's saying, I back Andy Burnham for Parliament. Now, maybe he got cold feet. Maybe Wes Streeting's thinking, I don't think I could be Prime Minister, at least not this time round. No. This is to make things even more complicated. Streeting is apparently still planning to run, meaning he is willing to stand against Burnham in a leadership contest. I think we all know how a leadership race between Streeting and Burnham would turn out. Now, the question then falls to the Greens. The local elections plus polling shows an extremely slim chance of the party winning, and most people expect this to be a straight race between Labour and Reform. However, the party has announced they will be standing a candidate. The Greens are going to campaign for the Makerfield by-election, complicating Andy Burnham's potential route back to Parliament against what is expected to be a strong Reform UK challenge. A statement from the Greens said candidate selection was in process and that the party had learned from its win in another Greater Manchester seat in February, when it overcame a 13,000 Labour majority in Gorton and Denton. However, not everyone is happy with this decision. Caroline Lucas tweeted, I hope this isn't true. There are times when it's more important to put country before party. This is one of them. Burnham's long-standing commitment to a fairer voting system could transform our democracy and counter dire threats of a Reform UK government. So are the Greens really planning to fight this election or stand a paper candidate? I thought their statement saying, well, Gorton and Denton prove they can win was a little bit odd to me, because Gorton and Denton, the demographics there were favourable to the Greens. Young, metropolitan in some areas, high minority population, and of course they just won loads of votes from the Labour Party. But Makerfield is not Gorton and Denton. The demographic, it's quite a bit different. Kevin, if Burnham is the candidate and defeats Reform, would that prove Labour can defeat them at the next election, provided he's the leader?
I mean, that will certainly be his argument, I presume, for running for leadership, which is ultimately what this is. Like, it's the kind of underplayed part of this story is the kind of slightly contemptuous way in which politicians deal with the supposed kind of sacred bond between an MP and their constituency. He's not standing to be an MP in Wigan, he's standing to be the Prime Minister. That's it. You know, he doesn't give two fucks really about the people of that seat. He would have stood in any seat in Greater Manchester because that's what he wants to do in order to become Prime Minister. Now, I'll be honest with you, I smell a rat on this one. I smell something decidedly fishy about this entire affair. The fact that Josh Simons, the leader of the Labour Together group, who are the absolute cornerstone of why we have the failed, greasy-faced fool of a prime minister that we currently do, the Morgan McSweeney project. He was the leader of that project and had to step down as a member of the cabinet in March, was it? Because of the dossier that was produced that was essentially meant to intimidate journalists who were investigating that organisation and its millions of pounds of dodgy funding from God knows where. The fact that he is standing down in order to allow Keir Starmer's main rival to stand doesn't sit right with me at all. It seems very, very suspicious. I think they're trying to set him up to fail. I think they know that Makerfield is going to be difficult. You showed the numbers there, even with his local following as the mayor of Greater Manchester and his personal affinity with the area and his support. It's a toss of a coin. Whether the Greens actually run a genuine campaign or a paper candidate could make all the difference. And by the way, I'm with Caroline Lucas. I don't think they should have run a candidate. I think it risks playing into the hands of reform. And of course, it risks making them look like the wreckers that they're being accused of by the Labour Party. I think you could do a lot more by behind the scenes playing a little bit of politics and getting a guarantee out of Andy Burnham for what it's worth, because it would be only an oral agreement, of course, to do proportional representation when he becomes Prime Minister. In order, A, that the Green Party would get a genuine look in at Westminster, and B, it would stop Reform from gaining a majority, because they're never going to get a majority of the electorate. They have a cap, basically, on what they can get, which is probably about 30% of the vote, at most, I think. So I think the Green Party are missing a little bit of a trick on this one. But Andy Burnham's running in this seat to become Prime Minister and not to be the mayor of, not to be the MP for Makerfield. But I think the Labour Together project are essentially trying to do what they did with Gorton and Denton, but without having to pull the trigger themselves, because they were enormously embarrassed, humiliated. It undermined the position of Keir Starmer that he had to block the only man in the entire country that's a Labour politician that could have won that seat from standing in that seat. It was enormously embarrassing. He knew that if he blocked him a second time, there would be open revolt within the party and within the Parliamentary Labour Party. And so why not let the electorate do it for them? Why not let him stand, pretend that you're doing this for the good of the country, for the good of the party, to try and stop reform, etc., and let the voters of Wigan, of which just nearly 50% of them voted reform in the local elections but a fortnight ago, and all 8 wards that make up the Makerfield constituency were all won by reform. Why not let them do the blocking for you? I think they'd be more than happy for reform to win that seat, because then they can block Andy Burnham from becoming an MP and essentially kill his political career, because he wouldn't be mayor of Manchester, he wouldn't be an MP, and he wouldn't be able to say, I'm the one that can stop reform, because he had the chance to and he didn't.
I heard that he doesn't need to resign as mayor, and if he loses, he can continue as mayor. It's only if he wins, apparently.
Is that true?
That's what I read.
That was not my understanding.
Don't quote
me. If that's
me,
the case, then okay, fine.
But
Because I mean, I'm surprised if that's true though, because someone would have pointed that out when he was initially blocked, and the reason that was given was there would have to be a by-election.
Yeah, but that's the NEC, right? Just like when Jeremy Corbyn was barred, they said even though they kept on saying Corbyn was kicked out of the party for anti-Semitism, when it came to the NEC, they said it had nothing to do with that. It's because he lost an election, because they knew they probably faced some legal challenges. So they just made up and said, oh, it's because he lost an election. So to be honest, NEC saying that. I don't buy that. Interesting what you're saying about the long game for Labour Together, because what's really strange is John Simons is from Labour Together, and they despise anyone that's not really right wing. Like
Exactly,
Andy
yeah.
Burnham is like an enemy to them, and he's not that left wing. You're not the only one saying that. Michael Walker tweeted that. I think other people have said that too. It would be a long strategy though to say, right, I'm going to resign my seat. I'm Josh Simons. I'm going to resign my seat. I want Andy Burnham to lose it, so he loses his career, but Josh Simons also loses his career.
Well, yes and no. Do not be surprised.
First of all, are they that smart? But also, where's the upside for Labour together?
They are Machiavellian scum. Be of no doubt. They
apart from
absolutely
because
are.
they're bastards, which I buy.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if Josh Simons becomes Lord Josh Simons, and they're not too
true.
Future.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't think he's done this not expecting a certain kickback in the near future from the reinstalled prime minister or whatever, you know. So yeah, don't be surprised by that in the slightest. Keir Starmer said he was going to abolish the House of Lords and has stacked it worse than virtually any prime minister in recent history. It's embarrassing, but. Yeah, I think that is ultimately the strategy they're going with, right? They know that they can't just block him again because there would be absolute revolt. The Labour MPs have made that very clear that they want him to stand up to the point where Wes Streeting, a man who knows that one of the few people who could potentially really blast past him in any leadership election is Andy Burnham, and even he's come out and have to back him because the party are in that place right now. And also Wes Streeting's just a bad politician who clearly doesn't have the numbers. If he had the numbers, he'd have triggered the election so that Andy Burnham couldn't run. Because the election's going to take 6 weeks. They're not going to wait 6 weeks and then start a leadership campaign waiting for Andy Burnham to arrive. That's not going to happen. So clearly he doesn't have the numbers, and that's, pretty obvious, I think, at this point. Whether he might be able to coalesce some of the more right-wing people in order to stop Burnham ticket is maybe his long-term strategy, if there even is such a thing.
That would assume they are smarter for that. But again, I doubt their intelligence, but I agree with you. I don't doubt their bitterness.
From Labour Together's point of view, the only chance I think they see of stopping Andy Burnham at this point is letting the electorate do it for them.
Yeah,
they can't block him from running for Parliament, and having done so, they can't stop him getting 81 seats, 81 members, because there are already 90 odd that have called for Keir Starmer to resign. So just theoretically, mathematically, there are enough there. And the fact that over half the parliamentary party has not said either way whether they want him to stay or not suggests there's a pretty big groundswell of opinion that he needs to fuck off. So I think he'd get the 81 names necessary very easily, and going to the membership of the party, even a purged, Starmerized Labour Party would undoubtedly vote for him in significant numbers. So the only chance they have is let him stand in a seat that he might lose.
Yeah, what's one Reform MP if you could protect Labour Together? They've now changed their name to Labour Think.
They are
just rebranded.
Think Labour, yes,
or Think Labour. They would still protect the project at the top.
Oh yeah,
in exchange for one Reform MP. That's probably.
For all of the talk of it being country before party, it's not even party before country. It's their faction before party.
So do you think that's Wes? Because Wes, he still plans to be leader.
Yeah.
Crazy something that happened. But he was like, I think Andy Burnham should run. Do you think he's probably in on it as well, hoping that Burnham would lose?
No, I don't think he is. I think what Labour Together or Think Labour or whatever absurd new fucking star map Tai Long name they want to give to themselves, I think they realise that Starmer is hull below the water. I think they're happy to, like the political tick that they are, having killed the host body, will jump onto another body, and I think they're probably expecting that to be Wes Streeting as a continuity candidate. But for the time being, they have to protect Big Dog. They have to protect their man in office. And so essentially they've let Wes Streeting sort of dangle on the vine for the time being and keep him there as a kind of backup plan for if Burnham does get into Parliament and they have to abandon Starmer at that point because he's not going to win against Burnham. Maybe they're thinking, can we get people to coalesce around Wes Streeting as a stop Burnham ticket? Because the likes of Luke Akehurst and his ilk are just not going to vote for even a former Labour friend of Israel, because he's ever so slightly economically to the left of fucking Benito Mussolini or something. And so, yeah, they would probably coalesce around someone like Andy Burnham and not Andy Burnham, Wes Streeting. And so I think that's Wes Streeting's path forward, because he clearly doesn't have the 81 names. I don't believe him for a second. If he did, why would he have resigned and then done nothing?
Yeah,
It's nonsense.
I think some people. I'm not. Well, I'm not. I think people are missing something as well, because no one's saying this. Is at the moment Andy Burnham is very popular.
Yes.
His personal ratings are +6. Very, very unlikely that a politician in Britain has plus than minus, right? Favorable, because no one trusts politicians, right? It's the norm to have minus.
Just getting to 0. I think Zach Polanski was at 0,
and that's a huge deal.
Yeah, he was the most popular National Party leader in Britain,
Yes.
and he was net nothing in terms of rating. So to have +6 makes him like I mean,
Jesus, basically.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. The only politician who could come along would be Jesus of Nazareth. And even he'd be called, let's be honest, the Sun would be out there calling him a commie, I'm sure.
They'd call him a commie anti-Semite, probably.
What's that? You want to get rid of the Pharisees from the temple?
Are you through the needle?
This isn't the Brexit I voted for.
Refugee, exactly. Lover of refugees and immigrants. They hate him for that. But yeah, so Polanski is still one of the most popular.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Technically, no one's popular. Again, the least hated. But Burnham is actually popular.
But that's
what I see missing.
God-tier level stuff compared to Keir Starmer at -45.
Insane levels, right? Which again, literal shit. It's not as unpopular as Starmer.
Yeah.
What I think is missing from people, I could be wrong, but no one has said that the reason why Andy Burnham is popular. There's many reasons, but Andy Burnham hasn't faced a lot of media scrutiny because he's mayor. Now, of course, he has faced media scrutiny in the past, but in 2026, the media scrutiny is crazy. Like, the attacks are crazy. He hasn't faced a lot of media attacks in the likes of even Nigel Farage has, or Keir Starmer, or Zach Polanski. So I'm thinking, sure, he's a likable person, and I think people, especially locally, like him. But what happens now he's in the limelight, and especially becomes an MP? There's going to be fair criticisms of Andy Burnham, PFI, Iraq War. I think he was either in a supporter of Labour Friends of Israel at one point.
He was a member.
Don't quote me. He was a member. There you go. These are things that we can attack him on.
Yeah.
In the eyes of the public, though, there is going to be more media scrutiny. So how do we know that his favourable poll ratings is also because he's not faced that much attacks? He's been out of the limelight. He's been doing great stuff as Manchester mayor, but going back to Westminster is very dirty. Yeah. I also don't think people are thinking about that.
I think so. And I think actually what we haven't borne in mind is the fact that 6 weeks of an election campaign, when it's the only focus in town, because during a general election, an individual race blends into the background. There are 650 of them. There are some high-profile ones, but generally speaking, you can, unless you're a local, you don't really hear much about it. Whereas we saw with Gorton and Denton, it's the only story in town because it's the only election that's happening for a Westminster seat. And this one, especially given that it's essentially, do you want this man as Prime Minister? You 80,000 people of Wigan get to decide, type deal. It's going to be hugely scrutinised, and the Reform Party are dirty bastards. We know that they fight some of the dirtiest, shittiest campaigns imaginable. They're very Trump in a number of
the Labour Party.
Almost. And so they're going to get their teeth into him and point out the PFI stuff and all of his past as a minister. And of course make up lies as they do, because they'll call him a commie and all sorts. And so that kind of battering. Again, even if Labour together don't get their ultimate wish of him not being in Parliament, he might be damaged enough to give them a fighting chance of getting Streeting in, maybe. You never know, right? Or Al Khan's. Jesus Christ. If my MP becomes Prime Minister, I'm leaving. The people here don't know who he is.
But the thing is that I think being unknown is not a problem, because you're going to be known. And actually, in a way, Al Khan's has got the vibe. That could work.
Actually, Al Khan's not being known is the best asset he has.
Literally. But
because if people don't know who he is, what was the old phrase? Oh God, I forget who it was who said about it, but someone said, Oh, shit, I've forgotten it now. I'll try and think of it later. But there was a great.
Okay, I
Hang
want
on,
to
you've gone
about the
noiseless. I can't
Greens.
hear you.
Sorry.
Hang on, I'll drop out and come back in 1 second.
Okay, he'll be back in a second. I'm going to echo some of the things that Kevin has said about the Green Party. I think I might get some flack, but I don't think the Greens should stand. He's back. Kevin, I was just saying I want to echo some of the things you were saying, and I said I think maybe some of our viewers might give me some flack. And by the way, not Evan at Turn F agrees. I don't think the Greens should stand in this election. There's plenty of reasons why. I can see the arguments of why there should be a Green candidate, because the Greens are no longer trying to be a small party. They're trying to overtake Labour. Of course, no one should have a God-given right to govern. But the reason why I don't think it's good for the Greens to run is because, one, look, Major cope, but the Greens cannot win there. They just cannot win. It's not Gorton and Denton.
No.
They cannot win.
Yeah.
So basically, if the Greens run, you're basically handing the seat to Reform. And if for the lefts, right?
Not necessarily, because there's such a small part of it that I don't think you can say they're definitely handing it to them.
No, I could see
it's very likely.
voters.
Well, exactly. It's very likely that enough voters would go to the Greens that the difference between the Labour and Reform would be smaller than the number of people who voted Green, and therefore the Greens will be given the blame for that. But
but I could see them maybe peeling off. I don't know. Who knows, right? Either they the numbers isn't enough, but they'll be blamed for it, or the numbers are just enough that Reform wins, right? Regardless, I personally think Reform, it's more likely. I think we can all agree on that. It's more likely if the Greens have a fairly decent campaign in a seat they can't win. But it's not just a by-election. This could potentially be a decider of the next general election. Now, the left, of course, we support socialism or communism or social democratic politics, right? But I do think the number one thing is to stop the right and the far right. I don't think Reform are particularly far right, but they're far right adjacent, and they will absolutely unleash far right politics like you've never seen before. Like, I think they will embolden Restore. Because when the Reform ultimately disappoint people on the right, Restore are going to rise. I think that Reform need to be stopped at all costs. And if Andy Burnham is the only person that could beat Reform, if the Greens stand, Andy Burnham doesn't get into Parliament, I think you'll agree with me, there ain't a single person in that cabinet or in the Labour Party that can do potentially what Andy Burnham could do and win the next election. So potentially the Greens might not just be a spoiler for Mark Makerfield, they could be a spoiler for the entire general election. I think it's fair enough that the Greens don't stand but say, look, we're going to give you a fair run at this. You need to support PR.
Yeah.
And maybe other things too.
Yeah, just on the point of Reform, it must be borne in mind that at least 3, I believe it is so far, councillors that they've elected in the last fortnight have had to resign because of their Nazi links, including Holocaust denial. So, there's certainly, like you say, at the very least, far right enough that entryism from Nazis is not detected until after elections, that sort of thing. I agree with you to an extent. Yeah, I think stopping the far right is paramount. Being an anti-fascist is one of the core principles, I think, of being a leftist. Because as much as liberal democracy is boring and stagnant and not ultimately very useful for humanity, you can't build socialism in a fascist world. You can from a liberal position. Liberal democracy allows you an opportunity to be able to build something. Fascism is murderous, evil, and rapacious, destructive, anti-human instinct. And so stopping that is ultimately the main goal, I think, just for civilization, even if we ignore the kind of party politics or the political theory or anything like that. Just basic human civilization and dignity suggests that we stop them first and foremost. So that should be a core principle. And like you say, you can get something out of this in terms of the realpolitik of it. Go to Andy Burnham and say, behind the scenes, cut a deal with him and say proportional representation. Maybe you get one or two other little, some little tidbits from him, maybe. But at the very least, get that, because A, that helps the Green Party enormously, because if they actually got a proportional number of seats to the number of votes they get, they would be a much bigger force in British politics and would be potentially the kingmakers of the next government, because there'd have to be a coalition. There's no way you could have any party getting a majority, there'll be someone on a plurality, but even the two main parties of either Reform and Tory or Lib Dem and Labour aren't going to be able to do it on themselves. So there would have to be some sort of Green or SNP or Plaid Cymru constituent in that government. And also, it stops Farage from being able to get an outright majority, which he might be able to do on something as ridiculous as 25% of the vote, given the first past the post system. As we saw with Keir Starmer, you can get 500,000 fewer votes than supposedly the worst result in modern Labour Party history and end up with a landslide majority. That isn't democracy, lads.
I also think there's another strategy for the Greens. Look, I think, because I completely agree with you, that the Greens will be seen as spoilers.
Yeah.
I think they would actually get more goodwill with the public if they were to stand down.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of people on the left who have gone to the Greens. Like I've not joined the party, but I voted them in the last election. Most likely to vote for them in the general election. Voted them in 2024.
Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
So yes, the left have gravitated towards the Greens, and I understand that lots of the left are saying, look, why are we giving carte blanche to Andy Burnham? Again, we've listed the really bad things that Burnham's done. And by the way, has he called out Israel's genocide? I don't know. I mean, he's certainly not going to do anything on foreign policy.
No.
But I think we have to remember that the core support from the Greens is ex-Labour voters. And if you're going to turn around to Labour voters and say, we know that Andy Burnham is really popular with you. In fact, we know that Andy Burnham is the biggest reason why you probably won't vote for the Greens. So we're going to attack Andy Burnham and stand against him. I don't think many swing voters between Labour and the Greens will be like, yeah, I'm going to vote Green now. I think that will actually make him more pissed off, especially if they're seen as spoilers, which means it's almost like a return on investment. If they capitulate in this particular election, in the future, I think there'll be lots of Labour voters who are like, I like Burnham, don't like Starmer or other people, and may lend their vote to the Greens.
Yeah.
So I actually think in terms of strategy, it looks far better for the Greens, because whilst they are surging and whilst they do want to replace Labour, they haven't replaced Labour just yet. They are still a smaller party. They only have 5 MPs.
Yeah.
You need to understand where they are.
And look at it as a basic mathematic issue, right? What are you giving up to what are you getting back? What's the deal here? You're giving up getting 10% in a seat that you have no chance of winning today or in 6 weeks or probably at the next election, frankly. So you're giving up basically nothing. And what you're getting back is potentially proportional representation from an Andy Burnham government, a removal of Keir Starmer as Prime Minister, which is good for everybody because he's an absolute shithouse, and potentially goodwill from exactly the kind of electorate that you need to get on board. Because whilst a lot of people, newer people coming into the party, are more politically savvy or biased or whatever you want to refer to them as, your average normie traditional Labour voter doesn't view it in any of those ways.
Yes,
they have no allegiance to the Green Party. They don't really even know particularly who Zach Polanski is. He's a relatively newcomer to the political stage. He isn't a member of Parliament even, and so seeing the Green Party allow whatever dregs of humanity they spew out in the candidacy process, presumably Mecca Hitler's corpse or something, I don't know, as the Reform Party candidate in that seat, to go into Parliament for a traditional Labour seat, I think would engender a lot of negative feelings towards the Green Party from the very kinds of people they need to win over.
Yeah.
So you're giving up nothing and getting potentially quite a lot back. It seems like a very good political investment. But
I just don't think it's worth it. But I do think this discussion is going to spark debate in the comments, which I'm really excited to go to. Let's go to our comments and let's welcome in our producer, Sarah Delau. How are you?
Woo, Saz!
Woo, yeah, Saz, yeah, woo.
Woo.
The best of the best. The best of the best. Okay. That's my singing for the day done. Right. So what an excellent bloody show. Like, your discourse with each other was so respectful and wonderful for once, Kalo. I'm so glad to see this side of you.
Well, we are best friends, So
we are best friends. Ooh,
friends. Ooh, friends. Yeah. So I don't know what this means. Just a quick one. Hey Kevin, you remind me of a character from the Hail and Peace series. Just then, Kevin. I don't know what
I
Hail
don't
and
even know
Peace
what the
is.
hell that is.
I don't know
Oh
what
my
that is.
God, you young bastard! You don't
Wait,
know Hale
Hail
and
and
I
Peace.
don't know
Peace.
Hail and
They
Peace.
were
I
a,
only
they were
know.
a comedy duo from the 1990s.
Listen, I only know Kale.
Well, of course, yeah. Kale and avocado toast and eat hot chips. Yeah, we
I feel
know.
like I recognise them, but
I
Yeah,
don't
you
maybe
know,
I'm
know.
probably a bit too young.
they're on things. They've become actors and stuff since then. So
Right.
Well, I'm
So
a
basically, I
dum-dum.
look like a fat, pasty white man from the 90s. Thank you.
Our viewers are so nice.
So there were some really interesting comments, but let me just go to the super chats. Thank you so much, Michael. You're wonderful. Oh, sorry. And then Aramis became a member, then gifted 5 left memberships, which is really lovely.
Thank you.
And then I'm really confused with this account, Curtis. I don't know what's going on here.
Oh God,
Someone
how have
called
they
Kurt.
face swapped you now?
I just don't know what's going
That's me
on.
and Andy Burnham, isn't it?
Yeah, that's you and
That's
Andy
me and
Burnham
Andy Burnham.
completing the Great North Run. Yes.
In
Wait, you need to
accordance
change
with
your
the
name though, because it says Curtis Dharma. Surely it needs to say like Curtis Burnham.
Yeah, this was the person who face swapped you onto Starmer last time.
yeah, so this person literally gifted £5, then £20.
Why does he look like he could be like in Narcos? That
Yeah,
moustache on him.
true. It says on the 13th of May, I published a photo depicting Curtis Daly as Keir Starmer. The image was misleading. I was wrong and offer my sincere apologies to Mr. Daly for the harm and distress caused. I regret this action and will not do it again. But
So
then
he
this
does it with
Curtis,
another.
Someone's lawyers have been in touch. Okay.
Oh,
but then
turn
he
up lawyers. Where
gifted
do you think that donations are going, eh?
£20 donation and 20 left memberships gifted by this
Thank
person,
you.
which
Well, I
is
love
so
he's like, oh, I'm
wonderful.
sorry I face swapped you and just does it with Burnham. To be fair, I'd rather be face swapped with Burnham than fucking Keir Starmer. So that's
Also,
an
you look
upgrade.
chad as fuck because you're flexing.
I
as
do
well.
look Chad. I don't think I've got that. Have I got a tattoo in the same? I've actually got a similar tattoo in the same place. His is a big, obviously Manchester. Mine is a Kinder Egg toy. But
For fuck's
Lol,
I'm
a
Andy Burnham.
Kinder Egg toy. So you've got a choking hazard on your arm.
All I'll say is, I was trying to gas you up by like, oh, you look Chad, mate. Oh, Kinder Egg. Oh, my Kinder Egg
I don't know why I
tattoo.
fucking admitted that, to be fair.
I love it. I love it. We all have
Oh,
our secrets.
Kinder.
And then £5 from Scribby.
Shut up, Kev. Oh, sorry.
So £5 from Scribby that said Farage's company, a thorn in the side via from company's house, has three. Sorry, I can't read that number. 3,000.
3,144,967.
Yeah, that's 3 million.
Oh, sorry. I was so slow. In shareholder funds, there is one shareholder, Nigel Farage.
Need your footage. Yeah, so because he's got 5 million from Carista Harburn. There was a 1.5 million, or was that a house? A 1.5 million house. His partner, no, she bought 800,000. Fucking so much money. But 1.5 million donation. Then his partner bought an 800,000 pound house outright, no mortgage. This is also fucking new.
But council tax on a boat.
Oh God! Even though it might not be the fact that you even have to pay for it, we don't know.
So just quickly, then it said we got to give to £2 from 22 Oreos. Kevin, it wasn't me when I said brick shit house.
That was a while ago, wasn't it? That comment.
That was a while ago, but thank you.
I don't even remember.
Next time, put brick shit house brackets compliment.
Yeah.
Compliment. And then 5 left membership. Thank you so much. Just going to quickly get through these because there's some big ones. Terry gave 20 left memberships. Thank you so much. Super wonderful. I'm so sorry. I'm actually so slow. And then £5 from Plants McGee, who said, "You are Laura Koonsberg. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your transition or something."
Yeah, I transitioned to Scottish.
Yeah. And then Ollie gifted that.
Thank
And
you,
then
Ollie.
Talking of transition and Scotland, let us not bury the lead and say that noted transphobe, Keir Starmer, but noted transphobe J.K. Rowling is now represented by a trans person in the Scottish Parliament, and that is fucking delicious. Well,
I'm struggling to understand. I'm struggling to understand these jokes. They're calling you an expert rat smeller, Kevin, and I don't find it funny.
I don't know about the smelling, but
it's just obviously so rude.
Well, there's loads of rats let loose in Birmingham, wasn't there, during the bin strike?
Well, not let loose. They were.
We're not let loose, no. It wasn't some
Well, yeah,
evil plot.
they grew because they had such ample food and things. Yeah. So they probably had
That's
such
right.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
struggling with these jokes. And then Kev, we're due at the Wonder Dome, top of the hour.
What the fuck is that?
What is that? What is that?
Hang on.
I didn't see that picture. What is that?
I don't know what that is.
What
It's
does that look
me.
like? The saw trap.
It's me and Jeremy Beadle as some kind of hideous worm or
What
something.
is
Honestly,
that?
some of you guys are fucking weird, but I love
Okay,
it.
guys, like, I really don't know what to do anymore. I just don't understand. These jokes are going over my
I
head.
know, I don't get it.
I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And then there's a larger story. It can't be bought except on Cameo. And then Tim Woodger, so a foreign billionaire paid him to campaign for political change in Britain. Like, it just doesn't. It's almost like an oxymoronic, isn't it? Tom James talk.
Sarah, have you ever been given a £5 million reward for something?
Let me actually just think about that for a sec. No.
Have you, Kevin?
That's a matter of an ongoing legal affair, and it's jurisprudence. I can't comment specifically on that. Apparently,
It's
that creature
totally
was
normal.
Master Blaster from Mad Max, but with me and Jeremy Beadle's faces put on it.
Master Blaster. Okay.
Can people not do that because I really struggle with the jokes? I'm just
yeah,
I
she
just
feels
think
left out. Stop it.
No, but I don't want to. Actually, I don't want to be involved in them. But like, I like no one
Can you
used my
do
picture for
more
anything.
Gen Z based memes, please?
And then Tom James talks. I picked on you quite a bit. Just your comments were quite interesting. Nationalise them, or at least dictate where they can fund. There's no reason why our finance brackets excess control should be in the hands of a few unelected bureaucrats. And
I mean,
then
all the banks should be nationalised. Or should just be one fucking nationalised bank.
And I think this was in with the second story. MK, I have just two comments that come with this, and you guys can maybe respond to this. But who cares what the bond markets think? We do them a favour when we borrow. They exist because we let them. And then MK said,
that's good point.
Just stop borrowing. We don't need to.
Well, if I'm assuming that you're making the MMT argument, as someone who's a proponent of MMT, the difficulty is you can't just elect an MMT government. Like, MMT would be like, you need to change the entire conversation, because unfortunately, if you were to try and if Keir Starmer were to just try and do MMT, it's not going to work, because it'll be chaos. Externally, chaos. I think it has to be changing the conversation where the average opinion of mainstream economists accepts that we don't have a household budget and you can just have the government spend money. But of course, there are external forces, i.e. global capital, that would absolutely push back on that. Because as MK, you rightly pointed out before, the irony here is, we don't want governments to spend too much money, but actually governments borrowing off of capital markets is good for them because they're going to make a profit of it in the future. Shows the internal contradictions there, which is well pointed out there, MK. But yeah, I don't know if we can just transition to, or just elect an MMT government. We just start doing MMT. I don't know that. I'm a supporter of MMT in theory. I don't know the theory of change when it comes to MMT. Well, I'd love to get there with Stephanie Kelton on one day, but she's quite big in the, yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
I'm a supporter of DMT, but that's a different thing.
What's that?
Isn't it a drug, I believe?
Oh, for God's sake.
It's like the Joe Rogan shit.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. All I know is
I was going to say I'm a fan of TNT, but like I'd probably get arrested as a terrorist.
Yeah, you probably can't do.
Oh my God, yeah, pack it in.
Pack it in, Kev.
Yeah, so
pack it in. What the fuck? You sound like my nan. What's that?
Oh, so sometimes I'm Gen Z and sometimes I'm your nan. Which one is it, Kalo?
Why don't you behave
yourself?
You'll get yourself into trouble with a lip like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why she was a company. My nan was a
what was
company
that?
there for some reason. I don't know why.
And Sarah, can you even do a Brummy accent?
Yeah, I can.
Go on then.
Birmingham.
What the?
Okay,
that's what you're getting. Exactly. That's what people. Sorry, whenever someone speaks with a Brummy accent, everyone always responds with, "What the fuck was that?" So that was pretty accurate then. Thank you very much.
That was very much your version of Jessie Nelson doing the Jamaican accent. That was what that was.
Anyway, let's focus, lock in. So, my Carly said, you don't need investors. That's like saying I'm not going to grow food and build myself a house because no one invested and ripped me off.
Well, I guess I'll just refer to what I previously said.
Yeah, so just refer back to that. And then I'm just going to go to the last story. So, blah, 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 blah. Maple Tea said, Streeting is banking on Burnham losing, I reckon. He'll probably run a clandestine wrecking op.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose I asked you earlier, like, do you think Streeting is in bed with like Josh Simons? But
I don't
we
necessarily think
know.
he
We
is,
don't
because I
know.
think he's sort of on the outside of it at the moment. But you know, look, the Labour Together people, I don't trust them as far as I could spit. Frankly, these people
Yeah.
are garbage, and I don't trust anything they would ever do. If they offered me free money, I would have to turn it down because it would undoubtedly be some sort of political op to ruin everything. So yeah, these people do political chicanery. They don't do genuineness. He's not doing this for the good of the country or the good of the party. He's doing this for some nefarious means, and I suspect that's to try and stop him from entering Parliament by making him lose.
As Owen Jones once said, the Labour right are soulless bastards.
Yes, yes. Very much.
Let's carry on because basically what was happening is that people were disagreeing with your takes. Basically,
Not allowed. Not allowed.
these
This
are the
is
ones that I always
Stalingrad
want to
here.
show. I always want to show the ones that disagree. Tom Jones said, if the Greens allow Burnham to run, it will make the Greens look like a minor partner and lose all ability to push forward to a major player. So I think there was a somewhat of an agreement there. But a lot of the comments were kind of around this. The Greens should not give way to Burnham. Should not give way to give Burnham a better chance of winning. It could backfire and lead to a reform win. And there were many comments that
How so?
I don't.
Show your
Yeah, I'm
work.
not sure if I follow the logic there.
there were a few comments that alluded to this, and that's why I was trying to bring it to the forefront so that we could understand it better. And then there was someone else who said, oh, sorry, Tom, I've actually clicked on you loads. Apologies. Sorry, Kev, don't agree on this one. I don't trust Burnham to bring in PR, but I do agree Labour Together are setting them up for failure
I do
regardless.
agree with
which goes
that,
back
to be
to
fair.
that.
I was going to say this earlier, actually. I don't think Burnham would bring in PR, though. I think let's say he wins the by-election and becomes Prime Minister. You got to remember, like, the forces at play when you're Prime Minister on a majority from first past the post. It's like, oh, suddenly I'm not quite feeling PR now. So I could easily see him not support it. But even if he does, this is another thing, which I think we said this on Wednesday, that Burnham is also very constrained from the Labour machine. So even if he would want PR, like he can, those that back him and put him in the leadership position can take his power away from him just as easily. And the Labour machinery probably doesn't want PR. So I absolutely do not expect PR to even happen. For me, I don't want the Greens to stand, not because they can get concessions, although that would be great. It's simply because I actually think not only could they give the seat to Reform, but potentially it could have consequences for the next election.
Yeah, that's my main bit. Is the Reform Party need to be stopped.
And then I think this is where the comments were. The Greens should stand and negotiate whether to stand aside. And Maple Tea said the Greens must say they will stand initially because they need to bargain for PR.
Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose if you have no bargaining chip, then you can be like, oh, we're not going to stand, but also endorse PR. Like, yeah, no, I completely understand that. Like, to say they're going to stand, have chats with Burnham, and then stand aside. I think that's a fair strategy. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, and then just last one before the last one. By extension, the Lib Dems should also stand down. What do you think about the Lib Dems? What should they do?
I try not to.
Who are they?
I don't think about the Lib Dems.
Who are they?
I don't think about them.
Yeah.
At all. They're so irrelevant. And then there was this
I
one.
don't think it makes a difference to the makeup, though, anyway, so they can stand or not. I don't know. They probably stand down because I think most of the Lib Dem votes will probably go to Labour in this instance.
Yeah.
Lib who? And then Antifa Vegan Boy said, Taneth, I think you guys should try and get interviews with Manchester Greens executive and try to understand their thought process around contesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, if there's anyone from Manchester Greens who's watching or know anyone, or we can reach out, and they are more than welcome to make their case as to why they think they should like mount a strong campaign or whatever. Yeah, I think that's
You're good friends with Zach Polanski. Oh, Zach Polanski. Just get him in. Bring him
he
up on the
doesn't.
blower.
To be honest, he doesn't require quite as quick since he's become leader. So
Ooh, Zach Polanski. Don't forget about the boat, Zach Polanski. Joking. Right.
Well, he forgot to vote, dickhead.
yeah, I that was.
Well,
that
come
was,
on,
that was
that's
not good.
pretty. Yeah, that's
you
shite.
got to fucking vote, man. So yeah.
Yeah, facts. But
Zach,
that's
come
it.
on,
That's,
Someone messaged him saying, "Register fucking vote next time, please."
Yeah.
but thanks so much, guys. Great show. I'm going to retreat and be back in bed. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah. You sort of went all muffled there, so I think you already retreated. But yes, thank you so much for producing. Yes, thank you so much for all the comments. Thank you for the donations. I thought it was really interesting comments for those that disagree with us. Kevin, such a pleasure to have you on, especially on a Friday. We love it when you're on a Friday. I mean, I love having you on anyway, but Friday seems more special.
Well, it was special because of your awesome hair.
I did my hair just for you because I knew I messaged you last night. I want to come on tomorrow's show, so I had time to wash it, blow dry it, put stuff in it.
I imagined you
things
would
I do
be.
for you.
Honestly, I love it. Thank you.
The things I do for Kevin Logan.
That's right.
Oh, got another super chats. Maybe it's my unwillingness to truly give up on Labour, but doesn't Burnham with a cabinet include Long Bailey and Lewis provide a little hope? If it does, maybe.
No, I don't care about the politics here. He's called Levin K. Fogan, and there's a picture of me as a baby.
I went straight to the fucking.
I don't care about the politics of it. Fuck all that bollocks, right? What's this nonsense now? Baby with a beard.
Baby with a beard. Thank you, Levin K. Fogan. Fucking hell. Honestly, I swear to God, the last couple of weeks our chat's got more deranged.
Yeah.
But they come with super chats, so I'm very grateful, by the way. I'm not telling you to stop doing that. Anyway, Kevin, sorry you had to see yourself as a baby in a beard. Absolute pleasure. Of course, have a wonderful weekend. I just want to note as well, we are going to be at the Unite the Kingdom rally tomorrow. We're going to be speaking to those in attendance and those at the counter protest too. Of course, it's the Unite the Kingdom rally, which I will praise Keir Starmer just once. He banned fascists from this country, and he's criticised the rally. Of course, I do think that his shitty liberal politics has given rise to the far right, but I digress. It is a rally in which not everyone in attendance is going to be far right, but the speakers most definitely are. So we are going to be there. We're going to speak to those in attendance. We are actually going to find some of the most right-wing people to speak to them and see what they got to say. And of course, we'll speak to the counter-protesters. So we're going to be there tomorrow. And of course, we will upload content as soon as possible. Once again, thank you so much for those joining us. If you support our work, then please go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. Support us on Patreon. Or you can support us with the other link on the website, which gives you it's just a one-time donation. If you want some merch, which I'm not wearing my Turn Left t-shirt today. If you want some merch and you want to rep your socialist credentials, then go to shop.turnleftmedia.co.uk. There's t-shirts, there's hats, there's mugs. I think there's other stuff. There's a really cool hoodie. So get yourself any of that stuff and make sure you're part of the Turn Left crew. Remember, we go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 p.m. You've been watching Normal Ireland Live. I'm Curtis Daly. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.